know who Dr. Becky is? She is a parenting coach. If you have kids and you're a kind of elder millennial or younger, or, like me, maybe a little bit older than that, then you probably know who she is. If not, maybe not, and that's fine. This is not a video about parenting. I want to share with you something that I learned from Dr. Becky that is about parenting, but I think it is applicable so much more widely than this. And this is why I want to share with you. Because really, this strategy, it's not something like you can use this if you have kids, if you don't have kids, it does not matter. Because this is a strategy that you can use on yourself. And I think it's a really, really valuable strategy. So, what Dr. Becky calls it is MGI. MGI. And that stands for most generous interpretation. And so the idea, how she's talking about it, is like with kids, if you're looking at their behavior and they're doing something you don't like, or they're noisy or whatever, why don't you try to give it the most generous interpretation? Like, why might they be acting like they're acting right now? Maybe they're not trying to be little jerks, but maybe they're just like super tired or like whatever, right? But what's the most generous interpretation? Because that's going to probably bring you closer to your kids. There's going to be less kind of yelling, right? There's going to be less friction if you can think about the most generous interpretation. But I heard this and I immediately thought, oh, of course I want to use this on my kids. But more importantly, I want to use this on me, right? Because we can be our own worst critics. We can be hard on ourselves. Are you hard on yourself? Harder than you need to be on yourself? Do you sometimes feel like the reason that you're hard on yourself is because it's really important for you to be hard on yourself so that you can get better? And you will get better by being hard on yourself. No, you won't, right? I mean, maybe you'll get better, but it won't be because you are hard on yourself. What studies show time after time is that when we are self-compassionate, we actually have better results. We learn faster, we make progress faster when we are compassionate with ourselves, when you develop that self-compassion. And MGI, most generous interpretation, is a way for us to develop that skill of self-compassion with ourselves. And with that comes self-improvement, right? We will get better, we will build better habits faster, etc., when we are generous with ourselves, when we are self-compassionate. And so I want to give you a few examples because we're talking about this at a high level right now, but I want to give you a few examples of this, about what this might look like for you. So let's just say that you have another day where you had a big old task list and you didn't finish it all, and now you're feeling really bad about yourself. And you're kind of beating yourself up on the inside, like, man, what's wrong with me? Like, why didn't I get through this stuff? Like, was I screwing around all day? Like, maybe I gave myself too much. Like, what was it? Like, why? God, I really need to get better, right? We could do that. Or we could give it the most generous interpretation, right? We could say, you know what? I didn't get done everything on my list today. And, I didn't get it done because there were a lot of fires that came up that I could not have anticipated, right? I didn't know that these things were going to happen and it had to shift my priorities. And so I did what seemed the most important in the moment. And that meant I had to move a few things, and that's okay. And one thing that I could do later to, help myself is maybe to not overschedule things so that I can absorb fires when they come, right? Give yourself the most generous interpretation. Or maybe another way is, maybe you do have kids and maybe you snapped at them. Again, right? I'm not speaking from experience. No, not me. Of course I am, right? Maybe you snapped at your kids, you're feeling bad about it. You're like, man, like I told myself I wasn't going to do that. Like, why did I do that? Now I made them feel bad. Maybe I even made them cry, right? What if you looked at it in the most generous interpretation? What if you said, you know what? Today was a really stressful day for me. And I snapped. It was like a reaction. I didn't mean to do it, but I did it anyways. And I do feel bad about it, but I want to give myself a little grace because today was a really hard day for me and it's hard to hold your emotions, my emotions, and other people's emotions at the same time. So what can I do about it? Well, I'm going to go apologize to my kid for snapping at them because it wasn't kind and I'm feeling bad about it. And so instead of beating myself up, I could do some work to repair this and I could go talk to them about it, right? And, what can I do in the future when I'm feeling myself really kind of get at the end, right? Like I'm gonna snap. I can feel that coming. Maybe what can I do? Maybe I can take deep breaths. Maybe I can go take a moment alone or whatever. But I'm gonna give myself some grace today because I had a really hard day and that's what happened. It just came out like that. I didn't mean it to. Now, another example. What if you make a mistake? Man, I have made so many mistakes in my life, so many mistakes at work, big ones, little ones, lots of mistakes. And I feel really awful about them. I mean, I gotta admit, still thinking about some mistakes I made like 20 years ago. And so I'm not saying that I'm the poster child of this just yet, right? But let's say you make a mistake. what can you say to yourself if you're giving yourself the most generous interpretation? You could say, I did make a mistake. And it's because I didn't double check things or I was moving too fast, etc. And you know what? I had a lot of time. I had a lot of pressure today. Things were happening. There were things all over the place. I was trying to get things done really quickly. And as a result of that, I made a mistake. What can I do differently? Right? First, I can give myself a little bit of grace because everybody makes mistakes. Right. And I didn't make a mistake because I'm bad or stupid or anything else. I made a mistake because I was moving too fast and there were too many things going on. And maybe next time I can try to single task, to do one thing at a time. And that might help prevent me from making future mistakes. But you know what? I made this mistake. Mistakes happen, even to the best of us. Right. And there were a lot of extenuating circumstances happening today, and they resulted in me making a mistake. But I can only move forward. And one more example. What if you are a person who just finds fault in everything you do, right? You're a perfectionist and you want things to be perfect, and they aren't because perfection isn't real. None of us can get there. And so you're constantly feeling like you're disappointing yourself and you're beating yourself up. What if you gave yourself the most generous interpretation of that, right? What if you said, you know what? I didn't do it perfectly. And I didn't do it perfectly because perfection isn't possible. I did it good enough, right? I did it to the standard that was necessary in this circumstance. So what I did, if it wasn't perfect, that's okay. It was good enough for what it needed to be. And that's okay. That's the most generous interpretation for yourself. So I want to share this with you, MGI, because the second I heard Dr. Becky talking about it, I was like, this is not just a parenting technique. This is a technique for us to use with ourselves. So I want to know from you. Let me know in the comments, is this helpful? Can you reframe anything? What's something that happened to you recently where you were beating yourself up about it? And what's your kind of MGI take on it? What's the most generous interpretation for what happened and how it happened and what you might be able to do going forward? And if you liked this video, please give it a like. And of course, if you want to keep seeing these types of videos in your feed, please subscribe. And that'll help me know what to make and that you're here and that you're watching. So thanks so much. Till next time.
Hi, it's the video editor here. I just want to say that only a small population of our viewers are actually subscribed. So it'd be a big help if you guys were to subscribe, and it would help out the channel a lot. So thank you guys.